During Rails World in Canada, Rails released Rails 8 Beta 1. I also gave a talk about PWAs, but I feel we will all benefit if we know how to properly use PWAs and how to have them set up inside of our Rails applications. And that's the purpose of this series of screencasts that I'm going to do. So in this application, we are going to use Rails 8 Beta 1 to generate a Rails application and then register our service worker file and then make our Rails application installable through the manifest file. So without further ado, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to generate a new Rails app and I'm going to call it PWA. I'll say it should run off of the main Rails repo. And then for CSS, I'll say we should use Tailwind. So I'll go ahead and then generate our application here. Now that the application is installed, I'm going to cd into our application and then we'll generate something to work with. So here I'll say application is going to be about a collection of books. So I'll just generate a scaffold and then I'll call it books and then it would have a name attribute that's of type string. Once this is done, I'll run the server and see what we have inside of our browser here. So the server is running. We'll go to Chrome and then we'll say localhost 3000. And of course, we should create our database and then run our migrations. So I'll do that. And here you see a beautiful splash screen that gives us information on what Rails version we're using. Here it's 8 Beta 1 and Ruby version 3.3. But this is not what we want to see. We actually want to see the index page of our books collection. So I'll go back into my terminal and then I'll make the root of our application the index page of the books collection. So I'll go to my editor here and then I'll open the routes file and then here I'll say we should have our root point to the books index page. Getting back to the browser and refreshing, we have a beautiful CSS that shows us a collection of books. At this point, we have nothing, but I'll go to the dev console here, and then I'll show you what we have for our manifest and our service worker. Here it says we have no manifest file detected. That's fine. We'll fix that in a bit. And then also, we have nothing for our service workers. We'll fix that too. So inside of the Rails, inside of the console, we also have nothing being printed. At some point inside of this screencast, we're going to print something that shows that our browser has been able to see and register our service worker. So back again to the manifest file, we have nothing here for the manifest file. So let's fix that. So the first thing you'd want to do is go inside of your application HTML ERB and then on line 14 we have a link to the manifest file that's commented out. So this line actually uses the PWA manifest path route, which we also need to enable inside of the routes file. So once we are here, we can uncomment the manifest route and then also uncomment the service worker route because we are going to be using all these two files. Service worker actually is the backbone of any PWA application, but if you want to have your application installable, it's enough to make some changes to just the manifest file without even registering a service worker. But for our purpose, we are going to print something through the application.js, and we are going to show a console message from the service worker registration. So I think we have everything that we need to be able to make our application installable. So if you look here in the previous browser that we opened, the previous window, if you look here, there is no install icon. But once we have registered our manifest file and then have it inside of the head tags. If we refresh, we should see some changes. You now see that there is an install button on top here, and then the browser is also able to see the manifest file. In this case, it shows that we have our app name to be PWA and the description to be PWA. Let's change that and make this a bit more descriptive. So I'll go to the views folder, and then inside of the PWA folder, we have a manifest.json. This is where the browser is picking up the name of our application. So in this case, I'm going to say we should call it PWA 101 and then save it, and then also go to the description and then change this to intro to PWAs with Rails. So this should be enough. For a PWA to be installable, there are a few attributes inside of the JSON, a few members inside of the JSON that you need to have. I think you need to have the start URL, the name of the application. You need to have some icons, display member. I believe this would be enough to make our application installable. So once we've changed this up, let's go back inside of our browser and see if the browser picked up the changes. So you can see here that we have our name to be PWA 101, and then the description has also changed. The computed app ID is actually what the browser uses to identify your specific PWA application. In this case, because we don't have an ID inside of our manifest file, the browser picks up the scope as the ID. So in this case, it will be the start URL, which by default the browser picks up. If we wanted to add an ID, we would just add an ID member here and then assign it something like this. But for our purpose, I think we don't need that. We will let the browser pick up the default scope for our manifest file. So once this is done, our application is installable. That's as easy as it gets. If we go into the service worker, we still have nothing happening inside of our service worker file, our service worker tab. So let's try to register our service worker and have it print something to our console. So I'll go to the editor, and then I'll go to the service worker. Right now it has nothing. We actually don't need this. So I'll delete this, but inside of our application, we are going to register this service worker JS file anyway. We just want to have something printed to the console. To do that, I'll go to the application JS. Of course, you don't have to really do this inside of application JS, but for the sake of simplicity, we're going to do everything inside of our application JS file. What we want to do is we want to check if the browser has, if the browser supports service workers, and then if it supports service workers, we want to register our service worker. So we are going to say something like, if the browser supports service workers, we should register service worker JS file. Now this returns a promise. So inside of this block, we are going to say then, and then we are going to print something to the console here. In this case, you are saying that if the browser supports service workers, we should register our service worker.js file and return the registration object, and then print to the console that the service worker registered with scope, and then prints the scope. By default, if you don't put a scope option here, you're going to have the default scope, which is the root of our application. So with that done, we will check if everything is working inside of our browser. So I'll go back to the browser and then refresh here. Once we refresh our screen, you can see that service worker is shown here, and then it says the ID, the PID of the service worker is activated and is running. If we go to the console, we have a message printed, service worker registered with scope, which is the default scope, and that's the root of our application. That's localhost 1,000. So we have our service worker registered, and we have our manifest file working. So let's see what we have inside of the manifest file. The manifest file provides us with some icons here. Here you see some default icons to image files that comes with a newly generated Rails application, and we will change this and then also make some changes to install prompt. But first, let's see if this works at all. So I'm going to install this, and then here you see our icon, which is the red dot, and then a PWA 101, which is the name of the app, which is something that we had set inside of our manifest file. So now I'm going to click install, and then we should have application installed inside of Chrome apps. I'll close this, and our application has popped out of the browser because we set the display to be standalone. So I'm going to see if this works, but before that I'm going to see if it actually does something inside of the server log. So we should have expect things working inside of the server logs. It works essentially as application would in the browser. So let's see what we can get here. So I'm going to create a book, and I'm going to call this Homer, and then I'm going to create it. So we have a new book inserted into our database here, which you can see. So all right, our PWA is installable now, and it works as it should. So we have books. On the books index page, we have only one book, but let's see if we can change the icon of this PWA. We can change this icon by going to the manifest file and then change the images that Rails came with. So I don't like this red dot. So if you wanted to change your application, you could go to the public folder. This is by default what Rails uses, but of course you can save your icon images through assets images, and then use the helper method to fetch your images. But in this case, to keep things simple, we are going to have everything inside of the public folder. So I'll open this public folder, and I'll open this public folder in my Finder. Oh, where is it? Public folder, reveal in Finder, and then I'm going to change the icon here. This is the red dot that Rails gives us, and this is what we are going to change for our icon. So I'll delete this and then say move to bin. But earlier on, I had downloaded some images that I wanted to use as an icon. So I'll copy this and then I'll paste it inside of the public folder, and then I'll rename it to icon. So this is going to be the default icon of our application. But first, let's see the red dot that was installed as our icon. If I go to the docs, here you can see the red dot that has been masked nicely here with PWA 101. This is the icon that we are going to change. If you click it, it opens our application, and we don't want this. So I'm going to uninstall this, and then I'll delete every data that it came with, every data that's stored inside of the browser. So I'll say remove, and our application has been removed. But because we changed the icon, we're going to go back into the browser to see what we get. So I'm going to go to localhost again, and then I'll say, oh yeah, so I'm going to click the install button again. But before, let's see what the manifest tab shows us for our icons. So if you scroll down, you'll see that our icons have changed from the red dot to a scooter here. So I'll close this, and then I'll install our PWA. Now you see the icon here beautifully with PWA 101. I'm going to install it. And once this is installed, I'll go back to the apps docs, and then here you see that the icon has changed. But one interesting thing you can actually do, of course there's a lot of interesting things you can do with the install prompt, but for this demo, let's see how we can change the install prompt to show screenshots of our application. And now the screenshots is something that you would use to entice the user to actually get more information about your application. So in this case, we are going to give our user a sneak peek of what they would get if they installed the application. So I'm going to go back to the code editor, and then inside of the manifest file, I'll say we want to add some screenshots. So we'll add a member, call it screenshots. And then this will also be an array, and an array of screenshots that we want to use for our application. So for this, we are going to need a few members for the screenshots item. And I have some reference here, so I'll refer to it and then say we will need our source, which is going to be the source of our image. So in this case, I think, well, we'll come back to this. This will be the image location of our application. And then we'll need the size of the screenshot as well. So I'm going to do the size, which I don't know. We'll check this and then fix this later on. And then we'll also get the type, which is going to be the MIME type of the images that we are going to do. This I know because I know it's a PNG, so I'm just going to enter that one here. And then we'll also get a form factor member here. Now the form factor is can accept two values. One is wide and the other is narrow. And because I'm doing this demo on a desktop, I'm going to say we want to use, we are on a form factor that's wide. So on a device that has a wide screen, this screenshot is going to show. So if you wanted to show this specific screenshot on a mobile device, you would say that the form factor for the device is narrow. So for wide screens, we want to show this screenshot. The screenshots that I downloaded earlier, I think are found inside of my downloads folder, which we'll get to. So inside of the downloads folder, I have these screenshots which I'm going to copy. So I'll say copy all of these screenshots, and then I'm going to paste them inside of our publics folder. So I'll paste all of these things here. And the names of these screenshots is image 1, 2, 3, and so on. But I don't know the size of this, so I'm going to do get info, and then the size of this image is 652:1412. So I'll go here, and then I'll enter 652:1412. This would be the size, and the image, now I know what the image is. I'll say this is going to be image 1.png. So this is what we have for our screenshot. This is going to show just the first screenshot, but I'm going to have more screenshots, so I'll copy and paste all of these things here, and then keep pasting them. So I'll do this, and then we have 5 of the screenshots here, and then I'll have this here. So I'm going to only change the name of this to image 3, image 4, and then image 5. This was actually 652:1412. I made a typo, so I'm going to fix these here. And then the last two would be 652:1412. Let me actually check if it was 652:1412. Okay, so we have the correct sizes inside of our manifest files. So I'll open my PWA app, uninstall it, and then delete every data associated with this app from Chrome. And then I'll go back to my browser, and then I'll open this root folder, and it looks like there is something wrong with our manifest file because we don't have the install button here. So it says there's an error inside line 19 column 15 unexpected token. So let's see what's happening there and then fix it. So line 19 has this. We have what could be wrong here. Oh, I see. So we were supposed to do something like this instead. Sorry about that. I'm going to fix this and then check if every other thing is fine. And we're going to fix this one here too. Okay, it looks like everything is fine now. Let's go back to our browser and then refresh. Oops, there's still something wrong with our manifest file. Line 48. What's on line 48? Oh, we don't have a comma here. So we'll go back to the browser, refresh. Okay, everything is working, and now we have our install button here. So I'm going to go ahead and then install it. Now notice that we have our screenshots. So if a user clicks this, they are going to be able to see a list of screenshots for the application. And this is what is going to show the user that this is what's going to show the user what the application is going to look like once it's installed. So this is basically it, how to work with PWAs and Rails. In the next set of videos, we are going to do more stuff with the service worker. But for now, I think we have enough. I'll see you in the next screencast.